Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first day of my free German learning course based on my method called Translation Cubed. My name is David Allen Martin II. For those of you who don't know me, I am a professional German and Spanish translator and interpreter, as well as a language learning coach. That means I help people to learn languages faster and more efficiently using methods that I have developed over the last 20 years of language learning. I speak 7 languages to a high degree of fluency, and I'm currently working on my 8th, which is Portuguese. But in this course, we'll be focusing on helping you to improve your German. So the first thing that we want to do is make sure that you can get enrolled in the course. In order to do that, you can jump on my Instagram page, which is linguathor_fluency, and simply click on the Linktree link here, and my Linktree will open. And then you simply go to the top link, click on that, and you'll land on the German course page where we were initially. Okay, so once you do that, then you simply have to click here and sign in. I've already signed in to the course as a student, so I immediately get jumped to the course overview page. Yesterday, I had you access the exclusive Facebook group for the course. Many of you did exactly that. And in the Facebook group, I will be sharing materials, or rather, I'll be sharing news and updates with you. However, you don't have to be part of the Facebook group in order to access the course. This obviously is a YouTube video. The materials will be on the Thinkific platform. So if you don't have Facebook or don't want to use Facebook, then you don't necessarily have to have it in order to participate in the course. Okay? So once you have accessed the Facebook group, if you'd like to, then yesterday I also had the people who are part of my Instagram audience and who signed up for the course install the program Anki. If you haven't done that yet, then I suggest that you do. In the course overview here, I've included 2 separate YouTube links. This one is in English and this one is in Spanish. And these videos describe how you install the program Anki. So if you haven't done that yet, please go ahead and do that because I won't be describing how to install Anki in this video, okay? So I'm going to assume that you have already installed Anki. So let's take a look at the info real quick. In the first section here, by the way, as you can see, the course is always bilingual, and I will be doing another video in Spanish, this same video in Spanish, so stay tuned for that. I first introduce you to my system, which I call Focus, my system for language learning. And then I introduce you to the 6 steps that you will be using in order to consume the Translation Cubed content. I suggest that you actually download the corresponding document in your language, whether it's Spanish or English. For this video, I'm going to download the English. You simply have to click here and save. And the reason I say that is because we're going to be using these steps quite a bit, and we're going to be using them in tandem with the course content in just a second, okay? So make sure that you download those documents, or that document if you want. You can download it in both languages, obviously. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into the content for the first day of the course. Each day of the course will be split up into a section for beginners or intermediate learners and another section for intermediate or advanced learners. I'll be focusing primarily on the beginner and intermediate learners in these videos. However, each day I will provide intermediate/advanced learners with a document in translation cubed format. Let's go ahead and look at the content for beginners first. In the first section on day 1, I gave you links to the content, the original content, which I have transformed into my translation cubed format here. And obviously, we're going to take a look at the English. Of course, it always opens directly in the same tab. So to avoid that, you can hold down the Control key and click at the same time, and it'll open that in a separate window. I've also included a YouTube link to the list of all of the Nicos Weg videos. Nicos Weg is the course that we're going to be using for this 30-day course. Nicos Weg is a great series because you have many different levels. First of all, you have levels all the way from A1 to B1 business. And each one of the lessons, this first one is called Hallo, hello. Each one of the lessons has an overview, and then it has lots of different sections that are very useful. Information about the course, exercises, grammar, vocabulary, culture, and society. So this is all about German culture and society. Then a script, so a transcript of the video, which we're going to look at in detail. And then you have some other tools, which I will show you later. If you want, you can take a look at the course overview, and this is all of the, or these are all of the lessons in this particular level. Okay, and we're going to be covering the first 30 lessons all the way up to Tageszeiten. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at this video. So according to my steps for you, we are at the very beginning, we are going to use the Translation Cubed PDF, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to download that. I just have to get myself out of the way here. Go here, and this is the Translation Cubed document for the lesson content, for the dialogue of the lesson. It's always going to look like this. So we're going to go ahead and download this. There we are. Going to save it. Okay, and then let me go ahead and go back to the 6 steps here, which we downloaded. And you'll see that the very first task that we have here is to eventually learn to listen to and understand the German content. Okay, so we want to go from not understanding to understanding. The very first step towards understanding, and that's why we just downloaded the PDF, is to read the English translations of the German sentences. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the PDF that we've just downloaded. And I'm going to move myself out of the way again here so you can see it a little better. And maybe I'll actually make it a little bigger. Yeah, that's much better. I think that's easier to see for you. Okay, so as you can see, this is a very special looking format. That's because this is my translation cubed format. And the reason why it's called translation cubed is because there are 3 levels of translation. The first level of translation is this level here, which is the sentence translation. So the idiomatic translation, the meaning of the sentence or sentences. The second level is the literal translation. So, for example, Guten Morgen is good morning. It's the same in German as in English, essentially. But how are you is how goes it, rather, how goes it, and that's an error. It should say how goes it to you. Ihnen means something like to you, and it's formal. So we use Ihnen in order to address people formally. Okay? This can be used to address one person or multiple people formally. Okay, so However, our first task, our first step here is to read the English translations of the German sentences, and we're going to ignore the German text for now. So we're simply going to read the English to get an idea of the overall meaning of the text. The reason why this is important is so that we can semantically prime our brains to learn new vocabulary. Our brains like it when they have, our brain likes it when it has a global understanding of what we're going to be learning before we get into the details. Okay, so the first sentence, woman, this is a woman speaking. Good morning, Mr. Müller. How are you? The man says, good morning, Mrs. Schneider, or Ms. Schneider. And then clearly there is a sentence missing here. It should say, how are you? That's quite odd. So let me go ahead and take a look here. That can happen. Ah, okay. I know exactly why. Danke, wie geht es Ihnen? Danke, gut und Ihnen. So here, wie geht es Ihnen? How are you? It should say wie geht es Ihnen again. The reason why it doesn't is because my Translation Cubed application automatically removes double phrases. So in this case, it's exactly the same phrase twice, so it's been removed. In any case, it should say, how are you? Good morning, Ms. Schneider. How are you? Good, thank you. Okay, and you. Good, thank you, and you. So they're simply greeting one another and asking how they're doing. The man says, good afternoon, Miss Kamp. Good afternoon. How are you? Very good, thanks. It's not necessarily necessary to read through all of this in detail. You're really just getting a general idea of what's being said. Okay, so, hey Lena, how are you? Hello, Grandpa. Hello, Sarah. How are you? Hi, Tom. Great, thanks. And you? Oh, nice. That bag is nice. Excuse me? Nice? Yeah, the bag. Emma, come on now. Sorry. And then this is a street name. This is an address. Okay, so our next step after we have read through the English translation of the German sentence is to watch the video without reading any text. So we simply want to watch the video and pay attention to the sounds of the language. So I'm going to move myself out of the way here again, and we're going to watch the video together. It's relatively short, okay? It's only about 1 minute total of content after the intro. Okay, so let's watch the video together. However, this word na, which is always said like that, it's always na, it doesn't really have a translation in English, but it's very, very common in German, in everyday German. It means something like, hey there. And the answer is almost always na. So if someone says na, then you say na in response to them. Okay? So in this step, we're reading through in detail, and we are looking at the sentences, and we're also looking at the words and their translations. Okay? That's the idea. Okay, once we're done with that, then we move on to the next step, which is reading and watching at the same time. So in order to do this, I'm actually going to separate these windows now. So here I'm going to have my document, and I've got to make this obviously a little bit smaller so it's easier to see. It's perhaps better if I open it in Adobe. And I have to close this window. There we are. Now it's a little bit easier to see. Let's make it maybe 75%. Okay, perhaps just a tad smaller. Okay, so now we can see that here. And now we're going to go back to our video and we're going to watch it here. Okay, great. So in this step, we are going to watch the... So now we can go ahead and go back to our steps here. So we have just done step 4. We have read the content while watching the video. And now Our last step is going to be to watch the video one more time without the content, okay? I'm not going to do that step with you here because you've already watched the video 2 times, but this is always going to be the last step. The reason why this is the last step is because we want to see how much we've learned. So now we have read through the text, the content in our language. We've watched the video once, then we read through in the foreign language, in German, in detail and looked at the words, the translations of the words, and then we read and listened at the same time. And in this stage, we want to see how much we have learned, right? To get a sense of achievement, okay? Then the final step is going to be using the PDF again, the Translation Cubed PDF again. And this step is optional. This is an innovative, if I may say so myself, exercise that I have come up with called art or act. But notice that in German, there is no R here. You just use the verb go, how go, and sometimes in English we say, how goes it, right? So looking at the first word, I'm going to try to remember the German. What was the German word for woman or Ms., Mrs.? Frau. Good. Guten. If I don't remember the word, let's say I say gut, and then at the end I look back, oh, I got it wrong. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Frau. Guten Morgen. Herr Müller. I don't remember. Oh, okay, yeah, wie. It was wie. Okay. Wie geht es Ihnen? Wie geht es Ihnen? Guten Morgen, Herr Müller. Wie geht es Ihnen? Okay, and then I move on to the next sentence. This is an optional exercise, but it is a spectacular exercise if you often find yourself translating literally from your native language into German. Okay, I recommend that you do this, especially for the Nicos dialogues. It's relatively easy because sentences are quite short. For more advanced texts, this can be very, very taxing. So I usually recommend that people only do it with sentences that they find particularly interesting and useful. Okay, so that would be the final step in our 6-step system. Okay, active reverse translation. So the last thing then is Anki. I told you all to install Anki, and now I'm going to go into detail about how you use that. We have to go back to the course materials here, and you're going to go here where it says Anki deck for day 1. And then you're simply going to click here on download. And now this has been downloaded. Now, if you have already downloaded Anki, when you click on this, it should automatically import it into your Anki program. So we'll have to give this a moment. Let's see whether it's done the trick. Yes. Okay, so once you've imported the file, it should look exactly like this. There are 44 total notes, total cards in the file, and it will look like this once you have installed it. So as you can see, there are 2 different kinds of decks here. One of them is a sentence deck and the other one is a vocab deck. The sentences are the same sentences that we just learned in the dialogue, and you can see them here if we open the browser function. You can see all of the sentences that we just had. If I sort them by their due date, you can see this is exactly the order that we just had them in the dialogue in the video. Okay, and I've created these cards in German, obviously, but Spanish, English, and Portuguese. So depending on your native language, you'll be able to use any or all of those. And the way that the sentence cards work is you're going to, I can show you by clicking here directly on the sentence deck. you're going
Guten
to
Morgen, Herr
see
Müller,
and
wie geht es
hear
Ihnen?
a
Guten Morgen,
German
Herr
sentence,
Müller,
and
wie
your
geht es
task is
Ihnen?
to try to understand it. So, do I understand this sentence? Guten Morgen, good morning, Mr. Müller. How are you? Right? How are you? And this was formal, if you remember correctly. Then I'm going to hit the, let's see if I can move this out of the way. Yes, I can. Okay. I'm going to hit this button, show answer.
Guten Morgen, Herr Müller, wie geht es Ihnen?
The correct answer.
Guten Morgen, Herr
So, good
Müller,
morning,
wie
Mr. Müller,
geht es
how are you?
Ihnen?
I got it correct. If I didn't get it correct, I just noticed that the setting is incorrect for the algorithm. So we actually need to change that. I'm going to show you how to change that now. So you need to go here and click on this dial, on this cog symbol, and go to options. Actually, it looks correct. So I don't know why it's giving us 10 oh, I know exactly why. It's because we clicked directly here. So I'm going to go ahead and change this. And then I'll re-upload this deck so that it's correct on your side when you download the deck after having seen this video. Okay. The reason why I made this change is because the standard Anki settings are not optimized. They are not optimized for our purposes. I've been using Anki for more than 10 years now, so I have come up with a lot of different optimizations for how best to use it. Okay, so and then the other deck, which is called Vocab, I'll show you where that comes from specifically. It comes from the vocab section of the Nicos Weg lesson. And the vocab is exactly the same vocab that you'll find here. On the Nicos Weg website, you can actually click on these words
Auch.
and hear native
Das
speakers
Beispiel.
pronounce them.
Die Beispiele.
And they include a lot of the expressions from the dialogue, but they also include some expressions that you didn't have in the dialogue. For example, es ist 9 Uhr, it's 9 o'clock, was not in the dialogue, but it's part of the vocab for this section. The Anki deck vocab section includes all of this for you. So the way that these cards look is, I'll show you here. If we do a preview, on the front of the card, you'll see the word in your language, in English in this case, and your task is to try to remember the German. So this is different than the other deck. In the other deck, we're simply trying to understand the German. In this deck, we're trying to actively reproduce the German from memory. So how do you say also in German? Auch. Auch.
Auch.
Auch.
So on the back of the card, then, you'll have the German word, and you'll also hear both a male and a female voice. I've also included a dictionary lookup for you. So if you want to click on a word and see the word in context, this will open up the reverso page. In this case, it's opening it up for German Spanish, but we can just change it to English. And now we can see all of the possible meanings of this word. Auch can mean also or even. And then we can see lots of different usage examples for how to use this word. All the scientific results will, of course, also be accessible to you. Selbstverständlich sind Ihnen auch alle wissenschaftlichen Ergebnisse zugänglich. Okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, great. So what you're going to do then is you are going to, once you've downloaded this deck and imported it into Anki, you're always going to study by clicking on this top overarching Nicos Weg label here and not by clicking on the individual decks. With each day, we're going to be importing more decks. Tomorrow, it's going to be Nicos Weg A1 Lesson 2, Sentences and Vocab. And you want to click here so that you study all of the vocabulary and sentences from all of the decks. Okay, so Once you click here, you're going to say
Guten
study
Morgen,
now.
Herr Müller,
And
wie
then,
geht es
as
Ihnen?
I just described,
Guten
you're going to
Morgen,
try
Herr
to
Müller, wie geht
remember
es Ihnen?
the meaning of the sentence, show
Guten
answer.
Morgen, Herr
There
Müller,
we go.
wie geht
Now
es
it
Ihnen?
says 1 minute and
Guten
1 day.
Morgen, Herr Müller, wie geht
You
es
will almost
Ihnen?
never need this easy button. You're either going to use again or good. Again means you're going to see it within 1 minute, so in the same study session, and good means you'll see it tomorrow. But tomorrow, if you remember it again, this won't be 1 day, it will be 2 days. And the next time, it will be 4 days. So the whole idea behind Anki is that it uses spaced repetition, which means that the time period until you see a card again, until you see a sentence or a vocabulary word again, gets larger and larger the more times you correctly remember the card. The reason why that's incredibly efficient is because it means that we see the things that we don't know very well more often, and we see the things that we do know well less often, but we still see them. The problem with the way that most people study is they study too many things they know well too often, the things they don't know well not often enough, and at some point they stop studying them altogether. They say, well, I know this. Well, what happens? 2 weeks later, you don't remember any of it, right? I know you've all taken exams before, you cram for the exam, you study a bunch of material, and then you don't know it at all 2 weeks later or a month later. Okay, so Anki guarantees that we remember everything that we learn in the long term. In this course, you're going to learn about 1,000 words of German. Okay, so by the end of the month, you will more or less know about 1,000 words of German. That's a pretty awesome thing if you're a complete beginner. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to say good.
Guten Morgen,
And
Frau
we'll go to the next
Schneider.
sentence, and then
Guten
maybe I say
Morgen,
it
Frau
again.
Schneider.
Guten
And then maybe
Tag,
I say
Frau
good.
Kamp.
And so depending
Guten
on what I
Tag.
say
Guten Tag, wie
is
geht es
good
Ihnen?
or again,
Guten
it's going to
Tag.
either show me
Wie
that
geht
card
es
again,
Ihnen?
or it's going to
Guten
push it
Tag,
to
wie geht es
tomorrow.
Ihnen?
If I go back to the browse window, now I can see that for the sentences,
Guten Tag, wie geht es
these
Ihnen?
sentences that I said
Guten
good
Tag.
for
Guten
are
Morgen,
now
Herr Müller, wie
showing
geht es Ihnen?
tomorrow's date. So I'm
Guten
going to see
Morgen,
those
Herr.
cards
Guten
again
Tag, Frau
tomorrow.
Kamp. Guten Morgen, Herr
Okay,
Müller, wie geht es
so
Ihnen?
I'm going to go ahead
Guten Morgen.
and close this. And let's go ahead and go back to the Nicos Weg lesson. And one last thing, it is a good idea for you to do the exercises and grammar section. And it's also a good idea to check out the culture and society section. So let's go ahead and look at the exercises first for this particular lesson. In this case, the very first exercise involves looking at this question and then answering. Unfortunately, these questions, we haven't really been prepared very well to answer these questions. And that's why I recommend that you install the Google Translate uh, extension. There we go, Erweiterung. I was thinking in German for Chrome, so that you can use that on the fly. Once you have installed it, you simply install it from the Chrome Web Store. So if you go to further tools, additional tools, and then you go to extensions in the Google Chrome browser, here you can open up the Chrome Web Store. And then if you simply look for translate, then you will see it'll be a few, normally it would be just a few down, weitere Erweiterungen. Interesting. So it's this one. This is the one that we want with the official Google Translate symbol here. Once you have installed it, then it'll be here inside of your browser. Then you can go to options, and then here you can choose your language. In this case, we want English. Later, I'll be using Spanish. And you want the pop-up window. Okay, so you want the window to pop up here, and then you simply hit save, and it'll save that. Now, when we go back to Nicos Weg, we can use this to select any word or sentence, and we can get a translation immediately. We can also listen to it.
Wo ist Nico?
Okay, so wo ist Nico? Wo means where in German. So wo ist Nico? That one's pretty easy. Mit wem spricht Nico? Mit wem spricht Nico? Maybe you can guess the translation of this sentence if you're a complete beginner. If not, no problem. Who is Nico talking to?
Mit wem spricht Nico?
So, who was Nico talking to? Let's see what happens when we answer incorrectly. So, it forces us to answer again. Okay, and we got 1 point because one of them was incorrect. Then we go to the next exercise here. And in this case, what are the people saying? Watch the video clips once more and select the correct dialogue sections. Each has 2 correct sections. Okay, so was hörst du? 2 Antworten sind richtig. What does that mean? All right. What do you hear? 2 answers are correct. Ah, okay. So Antworten must be answers in German.
Hallo Sarah, wie geht's dir?
Hi Tom, super, danke. Und dir?
Okay, so which were they?
Hallo Sarah,
We got it
wie geht's
100%
dir?
correct.
Hi,
I'm not
Tom.
gonna go through the
Super,
rest of the
danke.
exercises
Und
with
dir?
you. There are 12 total sections, but using the Google Translate extension, we are now enabled, we're empowered to be able to do these exercises, and I highly recommend that you do them. Then you have a grammar section. I recommend that you do the grammar section as well. In this case, especially if you're a beginner, don't try to memorize the grammar, rather just familiarize yourself with it. Okay? For example, yeah, this is more usage than grammar. Guten Morgen is used in the morning until roughly 11 o'clock. Thereafter, you say Guten Tag until about 6, and then Guten Abend. After somebody gets off work, or if somebody's about to get off work, you say schönen Feierabend, schönen Feierabend. Okay, we'll be learning that later on, but it's a very useful expression. Okay, the grammar generally has one section, although later on it will be multiple sections. You can see in this case there's only one single grammar page. Okay, so you can go ahead and read through that yourself. As I said, culture and society is definitely worth looking at. And then one last thing, other tools here. You can download a number of things. You can download the script and vocabulary to print out. You can download the grammar overview if you would like. And you can even download the video. This is actually not a bad idea. And what I like to do, I like to download the video and convert it to an MP3 so I can listen to it on the go. In fact, I'll download the MP4 and convert it to an MP3, and then I will put it in the course materials for you so that you can listen to it. Okay? So, exercise. You even have an exercise book here. I love the Deutsche Welle. There's so much great stuff on here. Okay, that is the long and short of it. So that's what we're going to be doing on a daily basis. We haven't taken a look at the intermediate and advanced materials. In this case, I have provided you with a translation cubed text for an advanced lesson on the Deutsche Welle about this song, okay, which was apparently a hit last year, okay? So what you have is, here you have a transcript of the whole video, and I have transformed or converted this whole text into my translation cubed format. So just below this section here, intermediate advanced, you can find the translation cubed text for this song. The procedure for learning using this text is the same as the procedure that we looked at before. However, keep in mind, if you are a beginner, you can still do this, but it's going to take you quite a long time. Okay, The beauty behind Translation Cubed is that even beginners can use advanced materials because you have everything translated for you. However, I do not recommend that you do the active reverse translation or aktive Rückübersetzung for these longer texts unless you feel like it. So do not feel forced to do these active reverse translations. You can see this particular sentence is gigantic, and it's just very, very taxing. Okay, it makes more sense to use the Translation Cube text in tandem with the video so that you can learn to understand an interesting piece of news content very, very quickly. Okay, so I believe that's it for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, this is a new format for me as well. So thank you all very much for tuning in. I look forward to hearing your feedback. Take care and see you soon. All right. Bye bye.